who basically perform anywhere, usually in people's living rooms, kitchen tables, anything like that. And here I am in Melbourne State. There were 3 versions of this show, depending on the number of people that were here. The first version was, if it was only the immediate family, I was going to say, oh, let's go back to Jane's and crack open a bottle of scotch. And then certain levels of people. After that, there was, okay, I'll stay here and I'll read. And I might do some other stuff too, maybe not. And the third version had costumes and props and lighting effects, but basically the council wouldn't fund that, so I didn't bring it. Motivational therapy. For those who need it. I don't. Now there are many things that you can learn about by buying magazines. This is what I learned this week. Gays were under fire. Did you know that? I didn't. I thought that everyone had a lovely, happy home life, and that the media never attacked anybody, and that family values stand for people liking each other. I didn't realize it's good for beating your wife, killing your children, and not talking about it. But I don't live in the United States, so I don't have to vote for family values yet.
But the Constitution.
There's a sort of odd notion that performance art has something to do with art and performance. Grand opera's performance, but is it performance art? I think so, but people will argue, because people like to argue. And there's nobody that I know that likes to argue more than my family. Now, just in case you're taking this seriously, the, in quotes, performance has already started, so this is actually fiction. It has nothing to do with real life, because in real life, you don't say nasty things about your family, unless they're 2,000 miles away. Now, you might as well know right now that nothing in life is as cliche. So, shut up. You know, I'll confess that I'm neurotic, extraordinarily neurotic. So, don't worry. And if I spend more time looking at the camera, it's because the Canada Council does like to have documentation. And if it doesn't happen on videotape, it didn't happen. So, now where was I? Well, actually, I found out something very interesting this week. Audience participation is allowed. In 1804, in the county, or in Galloway Shire in Scotland, there were 2 families. The Stuarts, no, I shouldn't use that, that's too Scottish. Let's see, who cares? The Lewises and the Mansons, they didn't know each other, as far as I know. And then they sort of spent the next 150 years traveling between Boston and PEI in Paris. And then a Lewis and a Vance got married. And the story begins. The year was 1958, the year of the dog. The day, April the 13th, Friday the 13th. And I doubt if there's any one of you in this room that can prove that Friday, April 13th, 1958 was not Friday. So, forget it. To continue, on this day in 1958,
a certain American religious sect.
that was supposed to fit in there. I don't have a technician, so I have to listen for myself. Anyways, in that day, 1958, Betty, daughter of Zelda and Scott, wife of Harold, son of Margaret and Greeley, yes, that's what I said, Greeley, as in Horace, Go West Young Man, Barnum and Bailey, Stanley Livingston, all that stuff. Anyways, the kid was born and they called him Joe. It's not me. This is fiction. Oh, I forgot to say that if I offend anyone, I mean to, except for those that I don't mean to offend. So, I was 7 years old, it was First Communion, and I had a hard-on. Now fasten your seatbelts. First, let me tell you a bit about this small mythical town, somewhere near London, Athens, Washington, and Rome. It's a town not unlike Brigadoon or Atlantis. Even though it's never disappeared, it's just never really been found. Well, until this year, when a real estate developer decided he was going to turn an old factory building into artist condos and easy commute from Toronto. Do you know any artists that actually own cars? Anyways, I mean, if you owned a car and you lived in Paris, why on earth would you want to commute to Toronto? Anyways, I digress. This town has a Catholic church, a Protestant church, a Kingdom Hall, a High Anglican, a Seventh-day Adventist, Baptist, Salvation Army, Pentecostal, Girl Guides, Brownies, Cubs, Scouts, hockey rink, baseball diamond, bowling alley, and you get the picture. Oh yeah, there are 4 hotels, 2 motels, and 8 old folks home. The 9th became a daycare center. They didn't change a thing. I'll leave the population to your imagination. Now, in these stories, you will see the steady, if not slow, development of a homosexual. Yes, that's what I said. Queer, cocksucker, packy bag, Jew, or whatever your own favorite nasty word for people who don't like is, like curry, or no, I can't remember anymore. I never say nasty things to people. But, that was rude. I shouldn't accuse you of being bigots. I don't really know you. But, have you ever experienced something like this? My t-shirt said, "Yeah, I'm positive, aren't you?" And with my right guard running down my arms, I said, "I beg your pardon?" She said, "I know what your t-shirt means, and I really don't think people like you should be working with food." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry," as I dumped her white wine spritzer on the rocks with a twist of lime. Who did you think she was kidding? Into her lap. A few minutes later, I was standing at the bar listening to her scream for Greg, the boss, and her boyfriend. I asked Tess, the bartender, if I should phone the Human Rights Commission, or welfare. Now on to the story. April 13th, 1958, Betty, wife of Harold, daughter of Zelda and James, gives birth to baby Jesus, Joe, and told me years later I was covered in hair and she thought I was a pup. The runt. 6th in the litter of 10. Not all at the same sitting, mind you, but hairy, scrawny, and pathetic. You remember the story of the ugly duckling, don't you? Anyways, school. Was it a nightmare for you? It was. We'll skip through the years between birth and school because, it's just diapers and chicken pox, measles, colds, lice, ringworm, eating dirt, sticking crayons up your nose, kid stuff. And then the nuns. We won't talk about the nuns at all, except Well, once the entire school ganged up on me and Cindy Scarface Nelson and forced us to hump on the front step. Sister Mary, mother of Attila the Hun, gave me the strap right then and there and said if I didn't confess, I would get to hell sooner than she had planned. After grade 1, Sister Mary Attila the Hun transferred to the Northwest Territories to abuse Aboriginal children. School. It was a nightmare, but tough. I got over it, so could you. Now the lights are supposed to fade, and the pathetic violin music that a little bit ahead of. Let's see. It's supposed to start. Oh, please. Not too far back. No, pathetic. But the lights come up. The music begins. Chapter 2. The Confidential Confessions of Catholic Schoolboy. Or, It's a Sin to Tell a Lie. Her name was Wilma Prudence Maria Offenbach, and she, according to popular belief, had fleas, had lice, stunk. She was short, fat, and wore glasses, was an A student, and ugly. A perfect target for any 8-year-old bigot, male or female. Her arrival at our school with her 4 older, nasty sisters was reason for celebration and dismay. Someone else's life was going to be hell along with mine, and there were 4 more people to make sure of that. Hell being the world outside my front door. Well, really the world outside my bed, but most specifically school. I actually walked home from school the very first day after the bell rang. It had been nice walking to school with my brothers, but when they went in, I thought it was time to go home, so I did. Anyway, Wilma, that's what I called her, joined the ranks of the great unwashed. We were the fat, the skinny, the poor, the ugly, the majority, but we didn't know it at the time. We were the kids you loved to tease, and we in turn found others among ourselves to hate along with ourselves. When Wilma arrived, I found heaven, or at least a partner in hell. There were other kids, the Bensons, Sharon and Stella, the Gilroys, all of them. That Anderson kid, Ricky, he really could talk, but was just shy. And I could list off the entire school, actually. At my school, St. Justine of the Ill-Mannered, there were many, at my school, St. Justine of the Ill-Mannered, there were only 4 perfect families. Upper middle class Catholics didn't really exist except in the Vatican maybe, and of course the Kennedys, and look what's happened to them. Anyways, life changed dramatically after Wilma and her sisters arrived. She became the brunt of everyone's ill will, staff, students, sisters, and even mine, until I noticed she could dish it out twice as fast. I never met anyone with such stamina. Nellie, another Offenbach, was 2 years older than Wilma, but in the same grade. She wasn't dumb. Wilma was just smart. Very, very smart. She was the darling of the nuns, and from the way her sisters treated her, you could tell she was Daddy's little girl. Daddy's little girl. They hated her. Well, we all hated her, except Daddy, of course, and an assortment of uncles and male cousins whose habitual abuse. But I was 7, and what the hell could I have done to help? As far as I was concerned, most adults were to be humored, if not avoided. But I'm getting ahead of myself. There she was, short, bespectacled, and a religious scholar, just like me. She knew the difference between Fatima and Lourdes, and knew the true meaning of the Catherine wheel, and knew that boiled in oil was not something you did to just French fries. I was so happy. My entire first year of school was spent trying to get this boy in trouble. I used to steal people's pencils and papers and books and hide them in other people's desks. His name was Ken, and he played the accordion, and he had a best friend named Dennis. I wanted Dennis to be my best friend. Not that I didn't have a best friend. I had a best friend. His name was Rob, but I must have known that next year in grade 2 he would give me a bleeding nose during a game of square ball, and he would get embarrassed because I cried and bled all over my math book an hour after he hit me in the face with the ball, and tell Sister Mary, mere little boys, that I was lying when I said he hit me, and he never talked to me again. Well, Dennis was beautiful. He looked like a picture in a book about St. Francis, and I thought he was neat. But Ken never got in trouble. Nobody ever complained that their pencils and papers and books were gone, and Sister Mary, come here, was always handing them back to people and looking at Ken with glowing eyes and red, moist cheeks, and like I said, he played the accordion. I loved going to church. I went every day during Lent in grade 1, and then in grade 2, and then they started busing us, so why walk? Anyways, I read every religious book I could get my hands on, and they had lots of pictures. And well, they were pictures of men, bare-chested and in ecstasy. Saint Sebastian, with all those arrows sticking in him and looking so happy. And I thought, this is for me. I mean, there were men on TV and in the Sears catalog that sort of looked like they might be saints. I'm quite surprised they didn't grow up to be an S&M queen. I mean, what could be more Catholic? All that denial and ecstasy. The reality is I got more joy from not being able to have Dennis as my best friend than I got from having Rob as my best friend. Not that I ever had Rob, mind you. I was 7 and I wouldn't have known how to have him if I'd had him. And thank fucking God there was no such thing as gym class. In our school, we had recess. Rain or snow, the nuns believed in recess. Oh, what was I talking about? Wilma, grade 2. So there we were, I looking forward to the humiliations and enlightenment of another year in school, that another year in school was going to bring me. I already told you about being forced to pump what's-her-name in the front steps and Sister Mary till a hand giving me the strap, so I won't go into that again. Now, the 4 perfect families. They were clean. Neither overweight or underweight. They had braces on what appeared to be perfect teeth, and such nice clothes. Their going to school clothes were better than my going to church clothes, and I just know that none of them ever wore hand-me-downs. Did I ever tell you the story about the time that I went to Niagara Falls with the class, and Nikki, who became Rob's best friend after Rob wasn't my best friend anymore, pushed me down in the snow. It was winter. He pushed me down in the snow and took my shoe off and threw it over the fence. This was a brand new pair of shoes. I'd never in my entire life ever had a brand new pair of shoes, and I didn't care about nuns, God, or my mother. I climbed over the fence, climbed out on the ice, picked up the shoe, put it back on, and got back over it. It was February. The American side was closed. The Canadian side was, I was this far away from the edge, but I wanted those new pair of shoes to remain a pair. Did I ever tell you that story? Anyway, the most perfect thing about the perfect families is that they were all C average, as though getting anything above a C was rude. That, like, you might be drawing attention to your privilege by being smart. Well, what a lame cover-up for the fact that they were just stupid and lazy. Just as stupid and lazy as the rest of us. And of course, the 4 perfect families were such good Catholics. They came in packages of 5 or 3. No birth control in these families. I mean, the Fitzgerald boys were going to inherit their grandfather's chain of appliance stores, all 2 of them, split 5 ways. Well, 4. Mary Jo was giving me that. Anyway, you know about the Second Vatican Council, right? When the Pope in Rome said it was okay to eat hot dogs on Friday? Well, let me tell you, those 4 perfect mothers in their 4 perfect Jackie O outfits, you know, pillbox hat, gloves, shoes, everything all matching the same color of pastel, pink, blue, yellow, or beige. Pastel beige, one of my favorite colors. Anyways, they'd be down at the fish and chip store every Friday picking up fish and chips because the old way was the best way. They didn't care what the Pope in Rome said. They were such good Catholic families. Back to grade 2, perfect people and not knowing, not being and not caring, and the fact that most 7-year-olds have a hard time protecting themselves from their parents, their peers, no matter how much they've read. I think that was the year old Father passed the wine, died, and was replaced by Father. What do you mean you didn't eat your peas? Don't you know there were children starving to death in Biafra? Took over the church. First of all, the confessional. The confessional had always been a source of amusement for all of us children. Fat, ugly, skinny, perfect alike. We all sometimes, the whole class, would confess the same sins and then compare our penance. It was always the same sort of thing. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 1 week since my last confession. The whole school went every Friday. They need us. I took the name of God in vain. I disobeyed my parents twice. I didn't eat my peas. Say 6 Hail Marys, 10 Our Fathers, bless you, go in peace. Amen. Amen. It was always the same things. There wasn't much original sin going around. After all, we'd all been baptized. And as for mortal sins, I didn't know of any 9-year-old adulterers. I tried the same routine with this new guy. Father, there are children starving to death in India. He'd been a traveling missionary. We were soon to understand why he traveled. What do you mean you didn't eat your peas? Prostrate yourself for an hour in front of the Virgin, then do the Stations of the Cross. Sister Mary Camira was outraged. She gave me the strap. Right there and then I realized it was a sin to tell a lie, or at least give a false confession. It never really made any sense, but it was rather a comfortable old closet. When Father passed the wine, ran it. It smelled like Old Spice and old drunks. Not really much fun lying on a cold marble floor for an hour by yourself. Thank God Dennis didn't eat his peas either. Kenny obviously did. Well, Father Eat Your Peas didn't stay around long. He incensed the whole congregation, the parents, the nuns, the Board of Separate Education, his housekeeper cook. He only ate rice and beans. The sight of prime rib made him throw up his arms and lecture on the sins of gluttony. Mrs. Ferris was not amused, and her sister worked for the bishop in Hamilton. Father Mike was like Bing Crosby in the Bells of St. Mary. And every woman in town, even Mrs. Elizabeth Scott, the spinster daughter of the chief of police, she wasn't even a Catholic, started coming to church. An aunt of mine drove up from Welland, Father Mike's old parish. And Sundays after Mass, the rectory began to look and smell like some all-you-can-eat buffet or smorgasbord or something. Every Catholic woman in town over the age of 10 was cooking for Favors, and believe you me, Favors were as bountiful as his shoulders were broad. Father Mike wore blue jeans and a t-shirt when he wasn't in church. He drank beer, had church parties, smoked, started the CYO. That's Catholic Youth Organization, if you don't know. We had a car wash to raise money to resurface the tennis courts that had been long forgotten in what I thought was a field beside the church. The CYO was great. We met in the basement of the rectory 3 nights a week. It was an easy way to get out. Staying at home. It's like, well, I'm going to a meeting at the church. It's like, okay, go. We all sat around and listened to 45s on the hi-fi that Mr. Fitzpatrick had given us. And of course, in honor of Father Mike, we smoked. The day after our first post-car wash meeting, we had raised enough money. He kicked us out of the basement because he said Mrs. Ferris said that we were engaged in fooling around, and after all, her sister did work for the bishop in Hamilton. Father Mike took up playing tennis with Miss Elizabeth Scott late at night and canceled early weekday masses. Now that I think about it, I don't think Father Mike showed up until grade 6, and I was talking about grade 2. The years from grade 1 to grade 8 just sort of get confused, don't you find? I mean, then it's on to high school, not Catholic high school. My parents couldn't afford to send me to a Catholic high school. You had to buy books to go to Catholic high school. But that was okay. By then I'd left the church. No more Latin. Hot dogs on Friday, folk masses, what a bore. I'd rather listen to the Rolling Stones or the Partridge Family than some Bob Dylan clone any day. I had stayed with the church after my family had stopped going. But then we all went. Dad was up and cooking. Dad was up and cooking bacon and eggs at 7:30. Whoever hadn't had a bath was in the tub. I was usually sitting on the kitchen floor by the basement polishing shoes. I loved polishing shoes. I don't know why. I guess I got stoned or something from the fumes. We went to late Mass, so we had to eat early and fast for an hour before communion, dress, brush our teeth, and then much to everyone's horror, my sisters included, it was brill cream. Dad greased us up and slicked us back. There we were, shiny shoes, shiny heads, our best clothes. We looked like my 3 sons times 3 plus 1 and a mother, not unlike June Cleaver on a bad day. Ward, will you do something about these boys? I wish they were girls, or more like Beaver here. Ah, June, they're just being boys. Well, most of them, right, Beaver? Smack on the back of the head. Dad, my name's Joe. Please don't call me Beaver. I had this great clip-on bow tie. I used to go into my sister's room when nobody was home and stand in front of her dresser mirror with the bow tie in my hair and blow, just like Rosemarie in the Dick Van Dyke Show, and blow kisses to myself in the mirror. After we were washed, fed, and ready to go to church, we had an hour to kill. So we had to watch TV. We had to watch TV. Do you remember that weird Christian puppet show, Davy and Goliath, with his dog? We watched that, and Beanie and Cecil. I had a stuffed wind-up Cecil that played music. Yeah, I was 8 when I had it. What's your point? I mean, I had a G.I. Joes when they were 12 inches long, high. And Johnny and Jane West dolls, and a Major Matt Mason, the first astronaut guy that came out after the flight of Apollo 7. He was rubber like Gumby and Pokey and had wire in him. And I still remember the clicking sound that he made after Donnie broke his arms and legs about 10 minutes after I got him on Christmas. Anyway, grade 2, Wilma and me, I had found a partner in crime, and her sisters, what a force for change they were. They wouldn't stop hanging out on the boys' side. Our school was completely segregated, inside and out. Girls on one side, boys on the other. The yard monitor was always in a tizzy, always chasing the Offenbach sisters back on the girls' side. I liked the girls' side. They had skipping ropes and baseball bats, but it was highly unlikely that they would throw them at you and call you a cocksucker. Well, Ellie Offenbach would. And she was known for her extensive knowledge of bad words, and had told a nun to go to hell and whatnot once. Basically, all I really know, except for moving, illness, failure, or death, the 28 kids I started school in grade 1 were the same 21 I finished with, except by then 2 of my older brothers were in the same grade as me. Wilma had caught up and passed one of her sisters. She was smart. I thought my brothers were just dumb, and that embarrassed me. But on the other hand, Sister Mary, come here, little boys, was always making me bawl my eyes out in front of everyone as often as possible, and I'm quite sure, along with winning the religion prize every year, that embarrassed them. Anyways, that last year I was confirmed. I had a bruise on my cheek for weeks. Sister Camira told the bishop to ask me if Judas Iscariot was in heaven, and I said yes. He asked me why I would say such a thing, and I replied that if Judas did what he was put on earth to do for God, and therefore he must be in heaven. Anyway, the bishop smirked, saying he had been told I was a religious scholar, but must have been someone else. He blessed me, and then gave me a backhander across the face. You ever seen the rings bishops wear? Wilma got to crown Mary during May crowning that year. That was like becoming Miss Calgary Fall Fair or something. Sorta. I did manage to lose my virginity during the summer between grade 8 and 9, but that's another story. Cornhole in the cornfield, but I don't know you that well, so I won't tell you that one. It must be time for a commercial. Oops, wrong button. Actually, it's time for me to go outside and have a cigarette. And if this song ends before I get back, press that button.
So shut this off now, can
I'm going to be reading from... Oh, I forgot to do my commercial too. I'm going to be reading from a self-published poetry book entitled And I Do Sing that may be purchased for the price of $5 from him, or her, whichever. And here we go again. Thursday, December 24th, 5:40 p.m. It's not that cold outside. It's refreshing, as they say. It's Thursday. It's dusk. I'm sitting here listening to Ricky Lee Jones, crooning the colors away. And I'm waiting for the phone to ring. Waiting for the phone to ring. I shift to my seat, get up to fix the record as it repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. It won't let time go forward. I'm angry. Angry that the phone won't ring. Angry that the record won't let time go forward. Angry with the poets. They lied. Who can I hate to make life less hard? The phone won't ring. In another place, no longer in time, you sit, losing your mind, and wait to die. Your memory fading fast, not fading, melting, in much the same way flesh on fire does, and with all the same pain. Today, you know more than you will tomorrow. I don't know if you'll remember my name. I'm afraid of the place I retain in the brain on fire. I'm waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for reality, waiting for confirmation, waiting. I'll have to write this down, or go nuts, or shoot a president. I sit. You stand. Hold my hand and say something. I dance. You run, speak of fun, and sing something. You tell me a well-constructed poem is like a house. I laugh and call you a louse. Love, like art, like life, is a bad dream. Sometimes. Sometimes it's just good, plain fun. A deep, dark green, woods overgrown and dank, decaying, feeding on itself. A video image courtesy of the rock and roll industry. My mother, old, broken down on hands and knees, planting tulips in suburbia. You stand screaming, alone, forgotten. Love. I said I'd call. I said I didn't have time. But really, I just forgot. Having not yet had. To begin before finishing. To live before you die, to never stop, to always ask why, and a minute later, you die. Stopping, always starting, building anew, putting out the garbage, listening to a song that retells the story of your life. You didn't write it, you didn't live it, but You did paint that picture, you've painted before. Get up, get moving through that door before it's shut, before it's gone, and nobody's left to hear that song. And no one you loved, the one you need. Listen to the traffic in the downtown of this here town, and feel the tears that won't let, feel the tears you won't let fall, screaming, never holding. The outside crawls in and you're alone, and the telephone never rings. You call out the names of dead ones and reach for something just over there. The door is closed. You can't open it. Throw up in the sink. The hand you can't touch holds your soul, and beginning again, having not yet had what? I sit, not having the dreams I want, the dreams I need to remember you clearly. The edge is gone, and a sweetness that does neither of us any justice remains. You're dead, I scream, I can't remember your name. I fear the loss of joy. I laugh at the thought of your brilliant plans ended. How ironic life isn't when end comes before beginning. We danced, drank beer in discos, too old and too young to care about yesterday and too unaware to make plans for the day after next. Too much was left unsaid. I'm too mad to be sad and so sorry for you to care about myself. Saintliness was not a quality you possessed, yet you have been killed for the sins of the world. Cars crash, buildings burn, people are glad their wish for your death has finally come true. Some need you as hero, some people need to stay blind to this crime. And if we never had met, would our deaths be different? Would the world be the same, or like the saying goes, a rose by any other name? I cannot believe we still play these games. But the game isn't over till the last man is gone, but we can still sing songs. I don't need to know what's going on. Somebody please just sing me a song. It's called Sing Me a Song. In solitude, I think of you. I remember when, as young men, we held each other. I think of your dreams, unable to come true, the songs we felt, the words we lived. You alone. Now, on days like this, I can no longer control my rage that fires my passion. We seek a new language, a color yet unseen, something formed of the screams of solitary mourners. Eyes have been forced open to see the beauty of life in the bodies leaving us, torn from our sides. The second coming is happening every day. Our brothers and our sisters die for our sins, but we think they're theirs, and nobody really cares. In solitude, I think of you, your dreams. It's called 2 Hours. And this is called Go to Hell. Welling up from somewhere comes a peace that comes from a sadness, comes from a joy, a knowledge of self, joy and boys. Joy, boys, self, how many years on the shelf, what madness in man teach hatred of others, self and land. Where do I fit in? Why am I in love with him? Questions that should not exist do, because of you and me. To what? And me too. What teaches, what lies, make us question why my wellness cannot be whole. When stomachs are filled with hate and people kill and daddy and boss man and Mr. President won't let us eat unless we pay the rent with flowers sent and nights together spent. I cry when I think of you. The worried well, quite frankly, can go to hell. Naked here I stand, as beginnings interrupted by endings. Here stand I, naked, raw, exposed, flesh peeled back. I say I need your companionship, your sex, your love. You hide your eyes at the sight of my heart, liver, spleen, blood oozing, made toxics from the things I do to keep alive. I say your gentleness can heal us. I see your healing power. Your eyes like those of root woman, Wicca, your hands small, smiling in the mirror. I see my horror, my interior exposed from beneath flesh peeled back, cannot attract. I can only wonder, are eyes unable to focus on life as it can only appear in the face of living? I need you to see me as I am, before time and skill replace the flesh. I see in your eyes the power to see, the refusal to look, the love I have grown to give you, can choose to escape. Love and fun and horror when it is felt, or we can quite simply love each other. And there's just one more poem. Death comes in. It doesn't say hello. It stops, will not go. Death comes in. I see it in your eyes, and I feel it on your skin. Death comes in. I taste it on your lips, your ass, your cock, your tits. Death comes in. It's like it's always been, but different than before. I try to love you more. You think you've shut the door. Death comes in. We've heard of him and him. The names we hear, we know. We close our eyes and wish for it to go. Death comes in. I scream so I cannot hear. The voices lost in tears. The stopping of the years. The raging of my fears. Death comes in. Death comes in. Why is it you instead of him? He who is gone from the words of my song. That's crazy. I cannot wish him harm. Wish him wrong. Death comes in. Death comes in. Death comes in. I hold you in my arms. Refuse to acknowledge harm. Death comes in. Death comes in. With your brain weak. With your breath weak, your brain on fire. I fight my rage, my pain, my desire. Death comes in. What God has caused this sin? Who can have faith in him? Why did it all begin? In your youth, crushed, your future gone. I search for words to end this song. To stay strong. Death comes in. 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 And I do sing, but I don't play the accordion. But it looks good. And that that just stop.
Fine.
45 minutes.
You know what? When you sang your nice song, the camera was turned off. Wouldn't you do it again? Yeah, I know. I had meant to record it, but I wanted you to know it, but accidentally you can't pronounce that.